family, thank you so much for joining me today for this Know to Grow series. I want to encourage you, if you are in the Chattanooga, North Georgia, Ooltewah, Cleveland, and surrounding areas, to come and get involved and get connected here at RPC. We have a tremendous amount of new small groups that are going to be starting in January of 2024. We are so excited, and we hope that if you're on campus or off campus that you'll come and be a part of these groups. Some of these groups do happen on Sunday and Wednesday, but we also have groups that happen on Mondays and Thursdays and all days throughout the week. We have groups that require very little commitment, just once a month, and then we have other groups that happen every week. So wherever you are, whatever walk of life you're in, we try to have something for you. And so let me encourage you to be checking our website, especially as we're moving into this winter season, into January. Be checking our website so that you can see all the groups that are happening and you can be a part of what God is doing here at RPC. Earlier this week, I was sharing with a group that I have the privilege of leading about God and just the faithfulness of God. And I really felt impressed upon my heart to share that with you as we are kind of going into this Thanksgiving season, as we're going into this season of time with family and friends. I want us to look in the book of Genesis chapter 22. And I'm not going to read the entire chapter for sake of time, but I would encourage you, go in with your highlighter, your pencil, your journal, and really read the scripture and really look at what God is saying to you. I always tell people, take a moment and pause and pray before you start reading the Bible and say, Lord, speak to my heart. Illuminate your word to me and speak to me what you're saying through your word. And it's so important to do that and to really have that prayerful devotional life. But in Genesis chapter 22, it's a very familiar passage of scripture, very familiar story. If you grew up in Sunday school, you've always heard about Father Abraham, and that's what I want to talk about. In Genesis chapter 22, we see Abraham and his son Isaac. His son Isaac was his son of promise. This was a promise that was given to Abraham that his children would be as many as the grains of sand. And we know that when Abraham was very old, about 100 years old, he was given his son Isaac. Such a miracle to have this child. And Abraham loved Isaac. And one day the Lord spoke to Abraham and said, Abraham, I want you to take your son and I want you to sacrifice him on the altar. I just want to take a moment and pause there because what so impresses me about this story is that Abraham didn't flinch. He didn't ask God why. He didn't ask God what was going on and what the situation was, but he didn't question God. He just began to gather wood and he began to make plans to go and offer a sacrifice to the Lord. And for me, that's such a powerful thing, just the faith that Abraham had. And not just faith, but the obedience, because his faith was being walked out by his action of obedience. And just the great faith that he had, that he knew that if God could give him a son at 100, that God could take care of him, that God could provide everything that he needed. Whether God provided a ram when they got up the mountain for him to sacrifice, or if God resurrected Isaac. He didn't know how it was going to happen, but he knew that God was faithful. And that is serious faith, that he knew that God was able to meet every need that he had. And I just find that so powerful. We know from the story that Abraham and some others go up and they go up to worship the Lord. And there comes a place where he tells the young men with him, you guys wait here. The lad and I, the child and I are going to go and offer a sacrifice to the Lord. Again, we see his faith. We see, he said, we will come back. He didn't know how God was going to do it. He didn't know what was going to do, but he knew that God was faithful and that God was able. And Abraham walked out that obedience. And that's such a powerful thing to me. I think it's so important when we find ourselves in difficult situations where we need God to provide. Maybe we need God to provide financially. Maybe we need him to provide relationally, or a health issue, or a miracle, or whatever we need God to do in our lives, that God can provide. But it's important to remember, I think, all the times that God's been faithful, all the times that God has shown up. It's such a powerful, powerful thing. And we know that Abraham goes up the mountain with Isaac. Isaac, of course, looks at his father and says, Daddy, where's the sacrifice? And Abraham, again, without missing a beat, he said, the Lord's going to provide the sacrifice. And just the power of those words. They go up the mountain, they get up there, he begins to build wood and build an altar. And then he begins to tie up his son, and he takes a knife ready to slay his son, knowing that whatever happens, God's going to be faithful. And we see the mercy of God as God says, wait, I know now that you fear me. I know now that you trust me because you were willing to give the thing that was most special to you, the thing that was most important to you. You were willing to lay that on an altar, and I know that you're faithful. And we see that Abraham passes the test that the Lord gave him. And I want to read to you Genesis chapter 22, verse 13 and 14. Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it as a burnt offering in place of his son. And Abraham named the place, "The Lord will provide." So today it said, it will be provided on the Lord's mountain. God is a God of provision. He is a God who is whatever you need him to provide. And so I want to encourage you today, whatever your Isaac is, whatever that thing is that is your promise, that thing that you hold on to, the thing that's the most important thing to you in the world. Maybe it's a child, a wayward child that you just struggle with. Maybe it's a sickness or loneliness. Maybe it's a dream that you had, and a position or something else in your life, a moment where you just need God to move. Let me encourage you today. Put that on an altar of worship. Say, God, I give you this. I don't understand how you can provide. I don't know what you're going to do, but I know that you are faithful. I know you were faithful back then when you gave me the promise. And I know that your word never fails, and that you are a God in every moment and in every season and in every situation. You are faithful. You are Jehovah Jireh. That's the word that Abraham uses there. That he said, I call you Jehovah Jireh in verse 14, the God who provides and the God who is able to meet our needs. And so I just want to encourage you today, wherever you're at, as we're going into this season of busyness, this season of spending time with family, this season sometimes of stress about different things, know that whatever it is that you need from the Lord, that the Lord is able to provide. And offer that. And, I encourage you, take a moment after this video, pause and pray and say, God, whatever that thing is that I'm holding on to, whatever that Isaac is in my life, let me take a moment and lay it down on the altar before you. Let me give this thing to you, and you resurrect it. You provide the ram. You take care of whatever this thing is that I'm holding on to, because I don't want to hold on to anything. I want to give everything that I have to the Lord. I want to offer everything that I have, and I want to walk out a life of obedience and faithfulness. Know that we are praying for you today here at Redemption Point. We do have a prayer email. We have a prayer form online. If you'd like to remain anonymous, you can always call our campus, and we have pastors and a prayer team who is standing by, who'll be glad to pray with you. We would love to hear from you and hope that you get connected as we're moving into our winter groups season, and get connected here at RPC. Have an incredible day, and we look forward to seeing you next time you're on campus or online.